Alright, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 89. Orthoplex 64 sends a wave. So, in terms of updates, no updates on renovation related matters. As for videos, did more filming of the next video today. I'm pretty much done filming for the next video, so I'll probably do a bit more tomorrow, but mostly just on to editing now, so that's almost complete. No work on world domination plans. And yeah, so I guess today we will be continuing with work on the block mining simulation game. So yesterday I did some work on the layer merging stuff, and added some test cases. Actually, I don't need a new folder for that, so I'm just going to work on yesterday's version. BFDI boy says, guess who's back? Yay.wow. I don't know, who's back? I was worried that the streak was going to break. No, not yet. We'll see if we can go to day 100. Okay, so on this view, the player character is not visible, and I figured out why that was at the end of the stream. If I do escape menu, I would have thought that world domination would have been accomplished by day 100. Perhaps I'm being optimistic. Yeah, I think it's going to take more than 100 days. So I figured out why the character doesn't show up last night. But I had thought that in the most recent changes, all right, I'll just have to implement the fix. I'll write a test case and then get it to pass. Robert's back. Tell a friend. Looks much better than I thought. Reminds me playing Ultima IV on Apple. Sorry, I can't. The text is too small. Apple lie. He ain't Genghis Khan? Not yet. Apple IIe, old computer with green screen monitors. Yeah, this game should be able to work on if you like a pure TTY interface as well. There's I have a special flag for like a text only version of the UI. It was awesome in 1988. That's a while ago. Wow, that was a year after I was 1 year old back then. Eric Remy says, "Hey everybody, how's it going?" To uploaded malware to is that saying OUR? It's sorry, I can't the glare from that number 3 is obscures that word. Uploaded malware to Linux. Bad week for malware to AUR. Is that what that says? AUR. Surprised it doesn't happen more often. Yeah, AUR maintainer. AUR, what exactly is that? Arch user repository. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of open source is like borderline just running on trust. But I mean, we're in a geopolitical firestorm right now, so people are going to have to figure out how to hunker down fast. Community package managed, maintain package remote, like PyPy, or maybe Ubuntu PPA. What exactly did the malware do? no details. You were born to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Excellent. It'll help my metrics. I remember, have you ever tried Emacs? I have not. Well, I tried it for like maybe 10 minutes or something a while ago, but I just never, well, I learned enough about Emacs to come to the conclusion that I don't think it's the editor for me. I like the fact that Vim has, it's almost like a grammar for constructing actions and figuring out what to do, whereas Emacs is almost like rote memorization. It's just like totally random key combinations to do things. You obsess over clean code or just care about the final product? I lean toward rapid testing. No point overthinking if it's not open source. It depends what I'm working on. Like if I'm working on a project with other people, the biggest thing I optimize for is like whatever the other people want. Like usually when you work on a team project, other people have strong opinion. Like every developer has strong opinions on should be this way or that way. And usually, like even if they're kind of misguided, usually there, there's some method to the madness. So I usually just try to conform to whatever people ask me to do. So if people say like all of our indentation is tab spaces, this many, or that many, style conformance or whatever kind of feedback I have to follow to get other people on the team to actually approve the code reviews and not like complain and stuff. And also like if you like even if you're technically right, if you write code that that actually is good and other people on the team don't like it, then that'll cause animosity and friction, and then every time there's a bug they'll blame it on your code style or something, or so that realistically I don't really care, like as long as it's not like mathematically provably wrong, in which case you can just use math, say like this is not correct. So that's on team projects. If I'm doing stuff myself, I usually try to, as fast as possible, get to a correct and verifiably simple solution, because once you have a correct solution, regardless of even how inefficient it is, then what you can do is you can start writing like some test cases or something. I mean, it depends what the code is and what it does, but once it's actually correct and functional, then you can start working on optimizing it. And if the outputs are like unit testable enough, what you can do is you can write some like even here I have these like functions for calculating intersections between regions and stuff like that. And so what I actually just did is for the actual unit test itself, what it does is it just does a dumb first. It iterates through the region in a dumb way and just like cycles through every point in both regions and sees where it is. So it's an inefficient way of doing it. And then I have like the elegant mathematical way. And so I run both of them. One is extremely simple and easy to verify that it's correct. The other one is complex to verify the correctness, but it's more efficient. And then you just compare them. So if they're identical in like basically all the cases, then now you can get to your next stage. So I guess I tend to write stuff that's simple, verifiable, correct, and then if I need to make it faster, I will. And there's a lot of code even in this thing where I just wrote something quick to get it to work, It's like a, triple nested for loop or something, but it works. And because n equals small for the for loop, when I run the profiler to see like what's causing the lag, this slow piece of code doesn't matter. So I just never end up refactoring it. Clean code by Uncle Bob. I'm not familiar with that phrase. Is that a book or something? I guess there's lots of heuristics and stuff that I've just, things that over time, like I've learned a hesitancy to certain kinds of things. There's a ton of stuff where like if you're writing an if condition, usually I'll try like a lot of codes you'll see like these two will be swapped, so it'll be like set exceptions observed not equal to this, then throw the exception, else this. And whenever possible, I try to avoid having nots and an if, having negation, because I can swap the order of the if branches to remove a not, because it's always harder to mentally reason about knots. At least it is for me. It's especially true when you get like if something is not something else. You should dual stream to Twitch. I should. Right now I need I'd have to look into the multi-streaming solution. Ideally I'd get a second computer or something, but I still have a lot of other things on my urgent to-do list at the moment. Another big thing I need to look into is actually trying some of these AI tools. But right now I'm prioritizing my focus on just get some videos out, because I haven't made a lot of videos in a while, and I got to get that revenue up. I was thinking of trying Vim. How good is the development experience with Java? I'm used to IntelliJ and VS Code. I use I do Java development on Vim, so I started when I was at Amazon, and the reason was because the virtual machines that we were testing in would crash, because we developed inside VMs on our computers, and the computers didn't have enough memory, so the VMs would always crash. So that's when I started just writing. I would just SSH into it and write in Vim, because it was so much faster. I would say I'm definitely the odd person out writing Java in Vim. There's a lot of, I guess like I honestly haven't used a lot of like the, create setters and getters type stuff. There are certain things like control click. Like if I control click on something, I don't have that in Vim. Having said that, usually I'm only working on like a couple files at once. So my muscle memory is if I'm done here, I just do :Q, and then I actually just usually cycle through up a lot. And then let's actually compile this. I probably got some compilers or something somewhere. Okay, so here I got 1179, so I'll just do up and then plus 1179. And so that took like 1-2 seconds. That's like kind of equivalent. That's on par with if you were actually navigating in the UI. There are a few cases where Like for example, I use the debugger with IntelliJ. That's one area where, like of course you can do it with like printfs and stuff, but I think you're way more efficient if you just fire up a debugger for certain problems. Yeah, actually one of the reasons I started using IntelliJ, I wanted to see if there's a way to make the compilation faster, if it like knew some secret stuff about maybe incremental building and stuff. Actually, another thing to mention is when you do it fully on the command line, so there's a bunch of stuff. A lot of Java projects seem to like XML files, like POM files and stuff like that. And with the IDE, I find there's a lot of situations where the IDE knows some magical information about how to like add something to the POM file, like add a dependency or something, and it can, through the IDE, it's very easy to do that thing in the simple case. Like just adding simple case of adding a dependency. The problem is, and I guess this is mostly from my experience back with Eclipse, was if your XML files, so the XML, like all of the XML files, the application context.xml and the POM files and stuff, that stuff, it's its own thing, and it has its own formats and syntax and stuff. And there are cases where Eclipse or IntelliJ does something wrong, and that becomes like a nightmare to debug, because you're trying to like find the right option in the IDE, because your brain is trained to, like, I have to solve this by, I got to find the right thing to click or the right select option in the IDE. But if you train yourself to like just edit the XML files directly, which is more difficult, then when you encounter those problems, it's a lot easier to solve, because you're just thinking like, okay, I just have to edit that right place in the XML file. Why don't you become a supporter of someone who champions your ideas instead of building your own entire autonomous region? Why do you want to build? What do you mean by that question? When trying to build your entire autonomous region? Oh, you mean about the Axel Heiberg Society? Honestly, when someone asks about clean code, they either write the most ugly code or extremely rigid, and end up writing extra code that never gets used. Oh, it's it's fun. It's fun to build your own society. Client does the same thing with CMake, but I ended up learning CMake, so I know what magic client is doing. Yeah, I think that's key. Is yeah, and I think like if you learn the underlying thing, like if you learn how the XML files and stuff work, like all the Maven lifecycle stuff and things, then when you do it through the IDE, if you ever have to, you're gonna, instead of just like rote memorizing like file, edit, dependencies, and like instead of just memorizing the place to go, you'll be able to debug much more general problems even when you have the IDE. Thanks, Robert. I'll try it. Yeah, one thing another reason I was looking to get into the IDE with it is there's no like language server. So I would like one really inefficient thing is when I write stuff, I don't get any kind of underline or anything, and that's another thing on my to-do list that I've just never gotten around to. But from what I understand, everyone has recommended NeoVim which I've tried for 30 seconds. And apparently NeoVim, NeoVim works well with language servers, which I cannot confirm or deny. You won't be stuck fixing very niche bugs. Yeah, you may still be stuck fixing them, but at least you'll like when you Google for stuff, you'll be Googling like how to edit Maven XML file, and you'll get all these like search results that say like add this to the XML file. Whereas if you only know how to use the IDE without editing the XML directly, then you'll be much more lost. Does your game have an inventory capacity? Yes. There's no max inventory capacity. It's pretty rudimentary. It's just like a list of things in your inventory, and they go up to infinity. Okay. That's awesome. It is. Okay, 11:45. Okay, I think the test case is working. Gyro Spelly says, brap, brap, brap. What does that mean? What's this? This is coding of my terminal-based video game. It's a video game that you can play in the Linux terminal where you simulate the process of mining blocks. Do you need Linux to play? Yes, at this point, it only works on Ubuntu Linux. I haven't tried it. It's probably possible fairly easily to get it to run on other platforms, but I think there'd be some on Windows. There would be some code changes necessary for sure. C++? No, this is Java. Coding is so arcane. After you spend a few thousand hours doing it, it gets a bit easier to understand. It's also it also takes a long time to, especially if you haven't seen the project before. Like, there's probably a lot of experienced programmers. So if you're even people here who program for years, if they don't if they haven't been briefed on all of my code, they might still struggle to understand what it's actually doing. It's easy to understand what a line is doing. It's just a standard for loop, but to understand why it's doing that requires explanation. And I don't comment it very well. AUR is Hellscape. Looks like I don't have any of the affected packages. Only update once a month. Okay, so is that only does that only affect Arch? And this is actually the first I've heard about the AUR malware. Someone mentioned it earlier. This is just logic. Feel so dumb? I don't think you need to feel dumb. It affects Arch and derivatives, like Endeavor. That's good. I guess that's one advantage of being on something where all the versions are behind. What language? It's Java. That's the easy one. It's relatively easy. It's one of the easier ones. Why so green? It's because your eyes are sensitive, most sensitive to green light compared to any other color. ITK because I'm an intrepid type of person. I actually don't know the definition of that word, intrepid. One of the old versions, Ubuntu versions, was Intrepid Ibex. Interesting. Intrepid. I'm searching my mind for uses of that word. It seems to me that it makes me think of Star Trek. I don't know why. Did they use that in the Star Trek series? Which libraries are you using? Only some like SQL libraries, SQLite, and like some JSON libraries and stuff. Like all projects, this game will eventually have a Rust version, but it's already memory safe though. You don't need Rust. Intrepid, characterized by resolute fearlessness, fortitude, and endurance. Interesting. Thank you for the definition. List list versus array list. List is an interface, and array list is an implementation. I'm not sure if that's the answer you're looking for. When declaring types, Robert uses lists, not array list, like a good boy. Yeah, that way when you want to change the implementation, you can. If I learn Java, would it benefit me? It depends. I guess if you're a software developer, it might. If it'll help you get jobs. Depends how much time you have on things and what your priorities are. If you're not a coder, just getting into it to learn Java, it'll be a long time before you can like make a living. And actually, this is probably the worst job market to like pivot into coding. I think coding is super cool, but I don't have a degree or anything. I think if it would be much more than a hobby. I used to love getting in the groove on projects. I guess whether you want to, it probably depends on where you're at in life, and if you have the time to learn it, and what other priorities you have. I would say if you're getting into it, if you're like pivoting into it from another career to make money, it's going to be like extremely hard right now. But you know, it definitely happened. Like I've worked with people. I worked with full-time people who didn't get a degree and they just like learned to code on their own. Self-taught developers. I think those developers are usually their intrinsic motivation and intensity can be higher, so they like some of those people can be wizards and they're really, really good at what they do. But often, I think some of the stuff you learn in school is not necessarily like, it doesn't necessarily make you smart. What it does is it teaches you a standard way to communicate. Like for example, if someone's writing something and I say like, oh, you don't want to do it that way, that's going to be like exponential time complexity because it's a graph problem. To someone who's self-taught, they may not understand what that is because they just didn't take a course on graph theory. But if you just sit down, if you spend like, even 20 minutes learning about graph theory or something, you can kind of understand what that means. Or if you've like read the Wikipedia page, and there's like hundreds and thousands of random things like that. They're more like a communication standard rather than like super sophisticated knowledge. Genuinely, thank you. That was inspiring to hear. Well, that's good. Let's see if that actually fixes the problem. Nice. That looks like that might have worked first try. That is interesting. The whole case I was trying to get working this whole time. It's not working. Oh, wow, now I got some weird glitches going on. Oh yeah, I realized last night I need to be setting those to a blank space instead of a null character. I left, but forgot to say goodbye. If I see you again sometime, thanks for the stream. No worries. Thanks for stopping by. What is it? Day 89. World Domination Fund Drive. I need to actually go back and tally it up. It's been kind of asymptotically going down, the daily contributions. Actually, I haven't paid too much attention to it in the last week or so. I think overall it's maybe close to like $2,000 or so. I think since the very start. I think after a while, after like about 20 days, the novelty wears off, so the contributions go down. But they'll probably go up. They'll probably go. I think they on day 69, that was a very good, very successful day. I'll keep going till at least 100. I think 100 will probably be a good day. I was hoping this would be an easy fix, but it seems like there's tons and tons of corner cases. After today, there's only one more prime day, up to 100. Yeah, we're close. Asymptotically, that word takes me back to 7th grade math class. Yeah, I think that's around where I learned it too. I think I learned it in grade 9. Actually, no, I think it was in grade 10. My high school wasn't very great. My high school wasn't very great for math. Maybe that's what I want. And that was a while ago now. Okay, it might have been off by 1. I apologize if this has been asked before. If you made your views clear on this previously, but do you have any thoughts on AI, software development? Also, any favorite Vim motions? That is a common thing people ask about. I have yet to really sit down and seriously try any of the large language coding models, but of course, since people ask me a lot, I've for a few minutes I played around with the Copilot on GitHub, and I asked it a couple questions about make me a class, in software development, make me a class that's similar to another class, and I thought the results were pretty impressive, and that it would be useful for templating and stuff, or maybe unit test generation. So if you just ask it generate me things where the cost of being wrong isn't really that great. In a loop, you could just say generate a test case for this program that's similar to these other test cases, and you could just do that 1,000 times, and that would be a cheap way of getting a lot of test cases. Now you still have to do some manual review to make sure you get coverage. In terms of really complex things where you really need to understand it, that's where it seems to it's more and the models are changing all the time, but it seems to be more work than it's worth. It's it'll tell you something that at first it's wow, that's a breakthrough thing, and then you work through it and you realize it's like when you're working with an intern who has a misunderstanding of something, and they say that they can do this really complicated thing in linear time instead of n squared, but then they're really convinced about it, and then you explain it to them, and then they're wrong, and it takes them a long time to figure out that they're wrong, and now you just wasted all this time teaching someone, but it's an AI. But it's even worse than because an intern will eventually realize they're wrong, but the AI will just forget over and over again. And it'll do that thing where it's oh yes, you're correct. It is true, the thing that you just said. And favorite Vim motions. Like VIT, VI brackets, VI single quote, VI double quote. Just the fact that it's the same. It's just VI and then the character you want to select between. There's like, and you can VIT select between tags. Do you host your Linux on outside servers or locally? On your own network, on your bare metal? Like my local computers. The computer I'm working on right now is just in front of me. So bare metal, I guess. So people, not too much. Just working on the block mining simulation game. That's why. So the reason that the rock is not getting covered is because it has a width of 1. And some, oh yeah, that would make sense. As I think I tried it on, I remember trying it last night again. And I was like, oh, it worked, because it did cover it. But it's only on certain terminals, I guess. Thanks. Peace and love, brother. Best of luck with world domination. Thank you. What are you best at? I'm soon going to be on the job market for a job. Once you get to network admin role, where would you place the importance of bash scripting? I guess you say what am I best at? Probably like a lot of the bash terminal based stuff. Yeah, it probably may be easier to describe what I'm not good at. So anything Windows. I try to stay away from most like graphical stuff. So I have done a lot of like automation stuff, and you asked about like the importance of where's the importance of bash scripting. I would say in like a lot of DevOps stuff. So bash is like it's like the low fidelity glue to make everything stick together. And it's the kind of area where it's like almost like a pseudo programming language. And if you don't understand like where it shows up and stuff, like there's a ton of I mean, perfect example would be in this project. So like right now when I type ls, yeah, understanding echo off and stuff like that. So I type ls, and I'm on the command line. That's a command. And if I look in the POM file, so in here, let's see, is it in here? Maybe it's in core, I think. Yeah, so in here, this is like within an XML file to build this project. And if you come down here, there is this thing here. And if you're not like super familiar with bash and DevOps and stuff, this almost seems like magic, but this here is basically just a bash command. So I can like, if I pull out, these args are meant to be like space separations. So if I take this whole thing out, copy and paste it, run it on the command line, that would be the way to manually run these commands. So that's creating this part of the build process, creating the Java file for the JNI interface, and then it just runs make. So it's just like running make in the command line. And then if you're using like Docker and stuff, there's tons of stuff where you can run the Docker command, but then within Docker, when you're configuring a Docker container, I'm sure there's like, you can pass a shell to something or pass an argument, and a kind of understanding environment variables. That's a massive source of confusion and errors. DOS batch file programmer. Been a while since I wrote any batch files. I'm a comp sci major and mathematics minor. Linux is a massive passion of mine. Ideally drive it in and for about 4 years. How often do you incorporate mathematics with your work? I guess for the project that I'm working on here, it depends what you want to call mathematics. Some of it is just like, I don't know. I don't know if I could. Well, I did in this project. I wrote from scratch a multi-dimensional noise generator. Yeah, so this file, multi-dimensional noise generator. It's not super elegant. So you can see there's still comments here, but anyway, I kind of just generalized Perlin noise and made my own noise generator that uses the SHA-512 hash function instead of the hard-coded Perlin table. So that's I guess you could classify that as mathematics. Although whether it's necessarily a good business decision to write your own noise generator, that's questionable, but for what it's worth, it's here. I've been using QWN 2.5, Coder 14 billion large language model to write huge complex hash scripts, bash scripts. I've gone from no automation to pretty decent automation. Nice. It's insane. Can't believe you're doing all this in VI. Well, technically it's Vim because VI is similar to Vim. I do use the debugger sometimes. Okay. So I think actually what I have now works. I probably have to update my test case. WordPerfect 5.1. I don't remember using that. That must be from a while ago. I thought you not having line numbers was only VI. I can get line numbers. I'll show you here 1016. Yeah, set number. That'll give you line numbers. Probably if I install plugins, there's probably like a plugin that turns on line numbers by default. I've adapted my workflow to just use the default, so that way I'm not constantly I don't have to worry about dragging my config around. Pico was my first Linux editor. People tried to get me to use Vim and I hated it. Nano's pretty basic. It gets the job done. The navigation in Vim, though, is for me essential. I want to learn this stuff so bad. I wish I was better than my computer so I could stay more entertained. Looks impressive. I only use IntelliJ for Java. I didn't even know you can compile Java in the command line. Yeah, that's one of the, I guess when you use IDs and stuff, you get kind of into that mentality that like it's hard to it's harder to learn it's harder to learn the command line versions of things, but like it's a higher barrier to entry. But then once you learn it, that knowledge is like infinitely portable. So back in the day, I learned Eclipse. That was my introduction to Java development. But doing everything in that environment, you know, to add something is like file, application settings, and you go to this like really specific place and like click a button. But if you do it all in the command line, you just like, you learn that once, or the punchline is once Eclipse updates the version, they might move that setting, or they might remove it entirely, or like refactor it into a different UI. And then when you go to IntelliJ, I have to learn the IntelliJ setting. But when you learn the command line, you just learn the one generalized form of it. Because for a lot of that stuff, too, the graphical interface will just, it very likely will just kind of compile, like take whatever you've input and then turn that into a command anyway. And it was good enough. It's okay. It's definitely good for, I don't think I'd be productive in it. William Elder, any relation to Rob? Yeah, I assume no relation. I was kind of when I was young, I thought my name was fairly unique, but then I got older and I found there's actually like a ton of Robert Elders out there. Eclipse is awful. Do people even use Eclipse really? I guess my assumption is that probably IntelliJ has replaced it these days. Old English name. Lots in the UK. Miss GNOME Terminal? Yeah, I think this is just GNOME Terminal. I'm in a VM right now, but miss some installing and features. Yeah, honestly, I kind of just, for a lot of stuff, I just stick with defaults. I think I tried like kind of customizing things and making it look really cool and fancy. And then I learned my lesson that it's a lot of work, so I just never do it again. I think this is probably still broke. How do I get better at this? I need to break through. So you want to learn command line. Actually, to toot my own horn, if you search for, have you seen my favorite Linux command series? If over the past, I guess I spent over a year doing it. I made there's over 100 shorts videos where I talk about my favorite Linux command, and they're shorts videos, less than 60 seconds, and there's like 120 of them or so. So if you search for Robert Elder's favorite Linux command, there's a playlist. It'll take you 2 hours to watch it. If you watch all of those videos, you will learn a lot about like command line context and how to set like environment variables and like some of the at the very least, like I don't have a lot of time to go into depth, but there's a lot of stuff there where if you don't understand something in the video, you can just Google it. Some of it I want to learn how to develop Java programs, the command line. Actually, I mean, it's technically pretty easy to get started. So if I just go cd into temp, let's try to write some program from scratch. So we'll do vi hello world.java. argv, argc, I can't remember, argv, I think that's it. Let's see how good my from memory is on this. So then I could just do Java C, assuming this compiles. So Java C compile for is the executable hello world. So that compiled hello world.java into the class. And if I want to know, so Java C, that's just a command. And if I want to know more about like how is this referenced, I can use a which command, Java C, and that'll reference this. So that shows when I write Java C, this here is what's getting called, but this is almost certainly a symlink. So I can do this, ls, or just ls-l. Now I can see it is a symlink that goes to this. And then I can do that again. Type in this thing. And then so that's an actual executable. So I can see through that, following the symlinks, I'm running this Java 21 OpenJDK Java. So that's the Java compiler. And if I want to know, this is another bash command thing, type -a, I think, Java C. Yeah, and I guess from my path variable, there's like two ways of getting to it, which they both lead to the same place. And okay, so I just compiled it. So Java C, hello world.c, that just compiles a Java program. And now to run it, I do Java hello world. And that's how you write, compile, and run a Java program on the command line. Yeah, people commonly do ls-l to see symlinks. I usually do ls-latr because it's kind of burned into my memory now, and it's useful to see the most recently changed file first, especially like if you're looking at logs and stuff, because usually when you're looking at a directory, you want to know what is the most recently changed thing. Yeah, and there you go. That's how you just compile something right in the command line. Now, this is not advised. Now, if you wanted, you could write your program this way, and then so you also have to do like Java C and dash CP to get the class path, and then you have to, put a bunch of stuff and specify your class path. That's a whole thing you have to do. Generally speaking, nobody, I think even anyone who writes Java on the command line does not actually write Java C. They'll use Maven or like some kind of build system. So that when that's if I just exited that, and so every time I run the game, I run this script, and if I just open that, so this is kind of just a fancy. It's got a bunch of fancy commands. So you do this with no coding aids, like syntax completion, and help with some libraries. Some of the IDE's features are quite comfortable. Are you able to import any of these features to the command line? I haven't really necessarily needed them. Like auto completion and stuff, I usually just either if it's really long or complex, I copy and paste it. Yeah, I do kind of, there are cases where I do wish I had an IDE, like especially if I'm using, like if I want to know on like an array list or something, what methods exist, like I forget, like there's, like there might be like a find method on something, and there's like 5 different versions of it, and it'd be nice to actually see the autocomplete. But often with that, I'll Google it and then just like read the official documentation. So that is less efficient, but there are other aspects of what I do that's, I think, way more efficient than an IDE, because navigating the code is much faster than an IDE. Especially if you have a slow computer. Like, actually, this is a pretty slow computer. But like for this, so I was working on line 233. So I just press enter, and I'm immediately at this area in the code. All right, I was going to test in Tmux. Are you typing a line number going to that? Yes. So I just quit. I guess that's hard to read because it's wrapping around, but in Vim, you just do, if you want to go right to a line, I can just do like plus 100, and then if I do set number, I'm on line 100. I guess if I make that bigger. So yeah, plus 100. And now I'm right at line 100. And another one I use extremely often, surprisingly, is to go to the end of the file. So I'll do Shift G. So now I'm right at the end of the file. And then another one I really like is like, so I jump to the end of the file, and the percent sign will jump to the matching like brace or bracket or whatever. So if I jump to the end of the file, move onto that thing, and then I do percent, now I'm jumping to the start of the function, end of the function, back to the start, back to the end. And I can just very quickly, so I could like I could use that to hop up a couple. I'd be like, okay, it's the second to last function, so I go right to the end. Okay, go up one function, go up 2 functions. Now I'm at the start of the second to last function in the file. Yeah, there's a lot of really great tricks in Vim. I learned even more of them. I've forgotten a lot of them, and there's a certain select subset that I remember because I use them so much. Let's see, what was I going to do next? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and to run a jar, you could do java-jar, and you specify the jar file. So that's how you can just run jars right in the command line. So I think this will be buggy. Yep. Indeed. Robert, I see you have resolved the character issue. Was a problem related to merge non-null characters down onto or something else? There were some issues with that function. I think I've resolved that issue. There's a whole bunch of different issues, but as of right now, so this issue here is because in tmux it does not correctly measure the terminal lies a bit about the width of certain characters. So my goal is to maybe get like a compatibility mode that will give like a kind of fallback compatibility. Screen works. I think that's better. I can't remember if this was a case that didn't work or not. I've taken 2 semesters of Java. I don't even know what a jar is. A jar is a zip file. So I guess when you build, so here's the top level POM. Have you heard of Maven before? So Maven is a build system for Java projects. There's also, I think, Ansible. I've never used it though. I think if you're going to learn one, Maven seems to be more like you'll probably encounter more projects in the wild that use Maven, even though it's kind of it really confuses me at times. And even if you're running like Eclipse or IntelliJ, it will use Maven. Like that was one of the first things I had to do to get this working in IntelliJ. I had to like figure out the Maven build commands and then just enter them in as a build rule. So my project is complex, so there's a bunch of dependencies and stuff. So there's some stuff here about plugins and all the compiler versions and stuff. And so this POM file in the game client folder actually specifies the building of the jar. So the packaging type is as a jar. I guess it probably stands for Java archive. So here you set the name it's going to be in release version and stuff. And there's also a WAR file, which is a web archive. So if you have a Java project you're deploying as a website, you can deploy it as a WAR. Deploy it as a WAR. Oh, and the other punchline is I don't know if I just mentioned this. Jar files are just zip files, so you can. Well, actually, I can even just use less. I think. So I go less block mining game. So if you can use less to view, to see an overview of what files are in a zip file. That's a neat trick on Linux. Or less or zless. I think it's smart enough to figure it out. Single player client target block. Yeah, so less. I just do less on that. It shows me because what it's doing is it's a zip file, so it's unzipping the archive and showing me. Or I don't even know if it needs to unzip it if the manifest is not zipped or not. It might not be. I don't know the zip format, but anyway, this is the this is what's in the jar file. So if you want, what you can do, I can do make directory abcd, and then so I can go into that directory. So I do ls, here's my jar file. I can do unzip the jar file. And now it just unzips the whole jar here. If I can run find dot, pipe that into less, and I can see every file that's here. So that just unpackages the whole jar. And if I want, I can open up those jars too. And there's all the classes for the game. Actually, no, that's Spring. Oh, actually, you know what? The classes for the game are not here because they are in another jar. They're in this jar. So if I go cd into boot inf, lib, and unzip that jar. Now I get everything that's in that jar. And there's these are all the classes of my game. And this concludes the overview of jars. It's crazy to do all this in the command line. So many files to manage. I'm sure it'll probably very quick through the navigation. Yeah, I would say, I guess that's the thing with the command line is the discovery of how to do stuff is like non-existent. But then once you like doing less and piping stuff, and once you know a few of those, it becomes very, very easy to, you just keep repeating. It's the same patterns and over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons I don't like IDEs as much, because with every IDE, you have to learn a totally new set of things. But you're just like ignoring all the new editors to come out. I don't even need to learn them. You do everything the exact same way over and over again, and it always works. All right. Why is there no SRC file and all that when you do it in the command line? Why do you not need all that chunk? The IDE does. There is an SRC file. So let's see. I mean this. Okay, here's the project structure. So here's all the files that are here. So this is a multi-modules project. So this is top level thing for all the modules. If I go down to, so into core, this is the SRC you're probably talking about. There's I think three projects in here. So there's the unit tests. Unit tests has SRC and target. And there's all that stuff like web INF and if you're doing a website. So all that stuff's here in this this type of pattern, SRC main resources. I'm sure you've seen that before. That this convention is, and like when you see like org yes, whatever, all that stuff is that still matters here because that's Maven. Is it like a, I don't know what convention I don't know whether this is to conform with a Maven convention or some like general thing, but yeah, anyway, point is like if you you really want to stick with this naming like this what do you call it, package structure of like SRC main resources Java. If you try to do something different, it won't work. You'll have to fight with Maven. There's probably some way to like explicitly specify it with some hidden flag or something, but I'd say just do it the standard way. Is there documentation on conventions? Where are you finding the friendly manual? Actually, for the package structure and stuff, I don't even know. It's mostly just like, I'd say if you want to move to the command line, just like you should be able to, like this project, I can run this in IntelliJ and in the command line. So it should be possible. I'd say the key thing is to figure out what directory to go to. And honestly, I don't want to bother opening IntelliJ, but if you just look at like the log, look at the console log, like there's probably like a build window, like console output, terminal output, or something somewhere where you can actually see whatever the exact command that Eclipse is using. And it probably has like a whole bunch of maybe environment variables or flags and stuff like that. But you can probably just take whatever's in there. Well, actually, maybe we'll just go ahead and this will take a minute to open because it's slow, which is why I don't use it. What's your favorite programming languages? Programming language. It says the Racket. I don't know. Java is a pretty good language. I used to code a lot of C. You're tying together so many different ideas I've had. Don't know what to do with. Yeah, honestly, there is. I understand the feeling when you have like some of those eureka moments when you're like connecting together many disparate things. It would make it much easier to understand if someone just connected it all together. But unfortunately, you don't. Usually, you just have to find someone who knows it all, and or like you learn it over time, bit by bit. Oh, project's already open. Yeah, so if I do, let's see, if I do the following. Let's try to just run this. So we'll click run. And there's probably a build window somewhere that'll open up. Okay, says I return. How's it going? This thing is very slow because this computer is old. Okay, here we go. So there's so this is just, that's that fully qualified name of the Java executable that I showed you before. So it's probably just running the exact same thing. So let's just take this and copy and paste that. Actually, let me just paste it here. Oh, I didn't want to run that. Yeah, I guess I probably, let me all right, let's copy only the part that I want, which is that. And let's quit that. So if I paste this here, I'm on the extremes, love Python for syntax, love C for low-level stuff. Yeah, Python is good for when you want to get something done quick. Good for anything less than a few thousand lines. It's good. I got what I was trying to get working yesterday. Thanks to your motivation. Excellent. Matrix server is working. Got people in there. Still haven't self-hosted email with Stalmart. Oh, I don't know. Self-hosting email in this day and age. I don't know if I'd risk that. Yeah. So you asked about running it like on the command line. When I showed you just doing like Java C hello world, this, or actually when I did java-jar, this is the same thing, but there's just way more flags. So this is running Java, which is my Java 21 executable -email. Oh, actually, this is running Maven. So it's not the java-jar. This is a command to run the Maven, and it looks really verbose because it's just doing. It's like fully specifying like absolute paths and stuff, which makes it. So this is defining a variable, a Java variable. So it's using Java to run Maven, because Maven's a Java application as well. It's using Java to run Maven, and then Maven itself will also use Java. So that can be a hiccup, because technically you could use a different version of Java to run Maven, and then Maven itself could be configured to use an arbitrary version of which could be different to actually build that and run the application. Yeah, these are all just the flags for running Maven. And then -e, that's a Maven flag. That's PL, the project directory. And then these are the Maven lifecycle rules. So I run that in this current directory. Let's see if it does it. Actually, okay, so that was doing clean install. And if I didn't run it, so if I do clean install run, you might run that. Oh, you know, I think I need to like, it has to be like Spring Boot run or something, but anyway. That's enough of that for now. Apparently there's been a really good open source project. It's supposed to be really good. I know a lot of people recommend against it, since email is pretty cheap. I said I'd give it a try. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, you'll definitely learn a lot about email. Email's incredibly complicated these days. Like, there's so many security features that have been built in over the years, and but it's meant to be backward compatible with like it's like a invented in 1980s thing. What's your favorite Java language feature? I don't know. There's so many. I would say the ability to concatenate strings without having segmentation faults. Still, all my spam ends up in inbox, and all legit email ends up in spam. Nice. Okay, the thing I was going to change was the following. Tons of false negatives and false positives. Yeah, I think it's going to get worse with all the large language model stuff. On a scale of 1xdev to 100xdev, how amazing will be the rest of this stream be? How amazing will the rest of this stream be? I don't know, probably not that amazing. I actually have to call it a night soon. So this case is going to be I need to be able to merge down with a background color that can be null. So we can inherit the background color of what's underneath. Actually, this is going to have to be one of these test cases. spotted a major bug. Color with the U instead of color. Yeah, I think I am inconsistent. I got the US version here, but I'm in Canada. Interesting. Okay, that did the main thing that I wanted, which is now the player character. It actually uses the whatever background color is under it. But I'm lagging so much I can't even move. That's not good. Some kind of glitch in there. All right, well, I think that'll be it for tonight. Oh, I don't think I had to run the test. All right, test passes. All right, that's decent progress for tonight. I made progress. That's pretty much the end of the. Well, I still have to figure out what that one bug was that I found at the end. But I'm going to have to. Yeah, so these changes were some of the preliminary changes. For the real changes, I want to add like another compatibility mode that I'm thinking that I think might make it work in like all those other broken terminals, and that way, I guess if I ever get it working on more terminals, then like if someone tries it and it doesn't work, I can say like run this compatibility mode, and it'll be like it'll have a high chance of actually working, even though it'll be the UL. It'll probably just like assume a fixed width for all the characters. Anyway, tomorrow we'll be back tomorrow night for day 90. All right, talk to you later.